And hello, welcome to Freedom Friday, Freedom Family. Listen, if fear has been whispering to you long enough, you may have stopped recognizing its voice. What if, just what if, some of the lies you have accepted about yourself are actually lies that fear wrote on your soul? Hi, this is Karen, Coach Karen, the baggage handler, and I'm here with Tea and Truth. Let's chit chat about what I talked about. So on Tuesday, we talked about how hurt can damage your confidence. Your hush. Now I'm not talking to you. We we talked about how hurt can damage your confidence, and we defined confidence so that we would know exactly what we're talking about when we say confidence. So we define confidence as a quality or state of being certain. When betrayal, abandonment, rejection, disappointment, failure, or other painful experiences attack that certainty, fear often moves into the space that confidence once occupied. It's amazing how little it takes to smash your confidence into smithereens. I'm turning my phone off. Okay. It don't take much. It does not take much for somebody who is really confident to get embarrassed one good time. And now your confidence not where it used to be. So fear often, hey Michelle Brown Russell, what you got drink? What's in your cup? I have lemonade today. I know I did not have tea. So fear never comes by itself. If you know anything about the spirit realm, then you know that fear does not come by itself. The enemy always worked through lies. And so fear brings lies along with it. In the garden, the enemy questioned what God had said. He didn't question it, he twisted it. With Jesus in the wilderness, he twisted what God said. And with us, he often attempts to replace what God says with what our experiences say. That's where trouble begins. How many of us have let an experience define what we think about ourselves? That would be me. If you listen to fear long enough, fear starts writing on your soul. Maybe it's the now when I say writing on your soul, imagine, here we go with one of my favorite movies. Imagine the Ten Commandments. Movie. Charlton Heston up on the mountains. Thousands and thousands of Hebrews down at the bottom. And he up there with the Lord. And the Lord is coming down and writing the commandments on the stone tablets. They're there. They're there forever. Now, the good thing about the enemy's lies is that we can get rid of them. We can get rid of them. But when I say write on your soul, that's what I'm talking about. Maybe the lie that is written on your soul is I'm not enough. Maybe the lie is that I'm not worthy to be loved this way. Maybe the lie is that nobody can be trusted. Maybe the lie is I have to do everything myself. Maybe the lie is people always leave, or nothing ever works out for me, or if I let my guard down, I'll get hurt again. Maybe the lie is this is just who I am. Well, you know, that just who I am statement, that's just really that's like just who you think you are. Because one thing about the intellect, which is a part of your soul, is that the intellect is going to always seek a reason. It's going to always seek a meaning. It's going to always seek an explanation. So they must have done you wrong because you are XYZ. And a lot of times that's what keeps us in a state of unforgiveness. Because how could they do that? They must think I'm this. Well, I must be this. And so then we never process out of that, right? So the dangerous thing about these lies is that repetition makes them sound true. So, you know, you have a relationship with somebody, that relationship doesn't work out. You have a relationship with somebody else, that relationship doesn't work out. And then you come up with this conclusion that, I must be XYZ. I'm not putting a word there because I don't want to put that word out there. And so you think the thought, you think it again, you think it again, and eventually you stop questioning it. You stop examining it. You believe everything about what happened to you except what God put into you. You stop comparing to the Word of God. And then you begin living and making your decisions and acting and behaving from that space. Here's the part we need to understand. Just because something happened does not mean that the conclusion that you drew from it is true. I'm going to say that again. Just because something happened, and I will even say just because something happened more than once, does not mean the conclusion that you drew from it is true. Someone may have abandoned you. It happened. Then the lie becomes everybody abandons me. Someone may have betrayed you. It happened. The lie is now nobody can be trusted. Someone may have this little gnat. Someone may have rejected you. It happened. The lie then becomes, oh, I must have no value or no worth. The event, that's facts. The event that happened, that's facts. The conclusion that you came to, probably not true. The truth is found in the word. It's tea and truth. Today is lemonade. So the event may, hey Shantae, the event may be true. The conclusion is likely false. The conclusion that you made about yourself is likely false. So that's why the path to freedom and ultimately confidence, or confidence and ultimately freedom, whichever one, is usually run through forgiveness, because forgiveness allows us to separate what happened from what we decided it meant. And that's huge. If you go to my YouTube page, you will see all the lessons that I did on the pieces, the parts of the soul, and what each one does, and how baby, each part of your soul does a thing. And I'm not going to talk about it here. Each part of your soul does a thing. And each thing that the soul does, if forgiveness, if something happens to you, then every piece of your soul is going to look for a reason, a conclusion, closure. Your imagination is going to start predicting things. So each part of your soul plays a role in what you do, what you come up with the situation in. Somebody hurts you, your soul starts looking for an answer. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Then, unless you stop your soul midstream and say, hey, we forgive them for that. And when I say we, I'm talking about your mind, your will, your emotion, your intellect, your imagination, your understanding. All these things, they come together when you make the decision that says, hey, we're going to forgive them. We're going to release that debt. We're going to stop letting our feelings run amok with what has happened. We're going to stop doing that. You can separate what happened from what you did. Hey, Tawana Gilmore Ross, how are you doing? You separate what happened from what your soul decided it meant while you were still in the state of unforgiveness. Because baby, we can come to a whole bunch of wrong conclusions with a whole bunch of wrong conclusions when we are sitting there with our feelings, running all over the place. So many people, even right now, are no longer living from the wound itself. We're living from the meaning that we attached to the wound. We'll say it again. We're not living from the wound itself. We're living from the meaning that we attached to the wound. So something happens. You decide that meant that they think I'm stupid. So now and I'm not saying that you are, and I'm not saying that I am. I'm saying that sometimes we come up with these me. They think I'm stupid. They think I'm boo boo the fool. We say this stuff all the time. They think that they can just disrespect me, like, and then you get to all this, and so then you start acting from all of this, right? Not to say that your feelings are not valid, but you cannot let your feelings run the show. Okay? Your feelings are very real. Your feelings give you a measurement of where you are with the situation. And then you have to decide what you're going to do with these feelings. Okay? And stop living and behaving and reacting from the meaning that we attached to the wound. Right? The betrayal happened. The lie says you're unlovable. The disappointment happened. But the lie says nothing good ever happens for you. The rejection happened. Excuse me. But the lie says you're not enough. At the end of the day, forgiveness is always for you. That's right, Mr. One. So the wound happened, but the lie attached itself to the wound. And now fear uses the lie to undermine your confidence. You see how all it's tangled up together? Because confidence cannot grow where lies are being protected and preserved. And so when we get when we get stuck in the state between, forgiveness and unforgiveness, we get stuck there. And then we start doing all these things to protect ourselves, and we keep telling the story over and over and over again and all this stuff. And so we continue to live in that space. So what do? We start asking better questions. Instead of asking, what happened to me? Ask, what did I start believing because of what happened to me? Childhood trauma happens. Okay, yes. What did I start thinking about myself as a result of said childhood trauma? Hmm? This is the question. What did I start believing? What story am I telling myself? What conclusion did I draw? And does that conclusion agree with what God says about me? Because if God says I am loved, if God says I am chosen, if God says I'm accepted, if God says I am fearfully and wonderfully made, if God says I am alone, y'all, all this stuff really is in the Bible. If God says I am the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus, then any belief that directly contradicts those truths deserves further examination. Okay, thank you for joining me, Mr. Wanna. Thank you so much. I'm really bad at the end, but replay it and share it if you would, please. Freedom begins when we stop treating fears, lies as facts. Okay, say that again. Freedom begins when we stop treating fears, lies as facts. Confidence begins when we start agreeing with God again. Now I'll tell you, I'm not teaching something that I've heard. I'm not teaching something that I've read, although I've read it, but I'm teaching something that I have lived and experienced. Is that when I was living in the state of unforgiveness from childhood trauma, I also was living in a state of I got to protect myself from everything and everybody. And I was oftentimes afraid to leap out on faith. I worked through forgiveness. And and over time, little by little, one little adventure with God after another, I I have been able, God through God, to rebuild my confidence and to live more free now than I ever have before. Now, is there always more freedom? Of course there is always more freedom. Of course there is. So, if today's tea and truth revealed an area where fear has been undermining your confidence, or if you know there are wounds that still need healing through forgiveness, you can reach out to me. You can send me a message here on my Facebook page or on my professional page, What's in Your Bag Coaching, because we want to get your confidence turned back around. Because the way that God has worked through people to help me get my confidence back, I would dare not give somebody the opportunity to let me help them work their confidence back out, right? Because that's what it's all about. You live through something, you help somebody else come through it, right? So, like I said, reach out to me because your confidence is sitting there waiting for you to stop living through lies and fear so that you can come out and so that you can be and do everything that God has called you to be and do. All right. So, y'all, before you leave, tell me where you're watching from, and you can even share what's in your cup for the day for During Tea and Truth. Y'all, please like, tag, and share this video. Share it in your groups, in your communities, wherever you have a permission to share. I'd really appreciate it. I hope this has been a good Freedom Friday for you, and I will see you Tuesday. We are here Tuesdays and Fridays for Tea and Truth and Freedom Fridays. Tuesdays and Fridays at 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We don't take long. Try to come on in strong. Y'all have a great weekend. See y'all next week.